In the dead center of the Cold War, one small country decided to stand up to a global superpower. And for 13 unbelievable days, the entire world held its breath as Hungary fought for its own freedom. So let's dive right into this incredible story of hope, defiance, and ultimately, brutal suppression. And this is really the big question we're tackling today. I mean, it sounds impossible, doesn't it? How on earth could a protest started by university students spiral so fast that it literally threatened the Soviets' grip on all of Eastern Europe? Well, the answer is an absolutely gripping tale of courage and consequence. The whole thing unfolds in less than 2 weeks. Just think about that. It all kicks off on October 23rd with the uprising. A week later, bam, October 30th, an independent Hungary declares its freedom. But by November 4th, that dream is just crushed. This timeline really shows you the breathtaking speed of it all. Okay, so to get why this explosion happened, we have to look at the pressure cooker that was post-war Hungary. After World War II, the country fell deep into the Soviet Union's shadow, and for regular people, life was pretty much defined by fear and oppression. And right at the heart of all this tension were two men who had completely different visions for Hungary. On one side, you've got Mátyás Rákosi. This guy proudly called himself Stalin's best pupil, and yeah, he lived up to it. His role was all about purges and the terror of his secret police, the AVH. But on the other side, there was Imre Nagy, a reformer who was pushing for a new course. A little hope for more freedom. The hardliners, of course, couldn't stand it, and they pushed him out of power in 1955, cranking that pressure up even higher. So what changed? Well, a huge piece of the puzzle was de-Stalinization. After Stalin died in '53, this sort of political thaw started to spread across the Soviet bloc. The new guy, Khrushchev, even came out and denounced Stalin's crimes. For people in Hungary, this was a massive signal. It was a crack in the ice, a sign that maybe, just maybe, change was actually possible. And that glimmer of hope, it turned into a roar for action. The whole country was electric with this feeling that things had to change, and it was all about to ignite. So on October 23rd, students in Budapest lead out exactly what they wanted in their famous 16 points. And what's so amazing about this is how clear and bold these demands were. They weren't asking for small tweaks. They were demanding a total reset. Get Soviet troops out, bring back the reformer Imre Nagy, hold free elections, give us free speech. This was the blueprint for a whole new Hungary. And this was no longer just a student march. The second the secret police fired on those peaceful demonstrators, the entire city, and pretty soon the entire country, just exploded. People started tearing down Soviet statues, fighting the secret police in the streets. They even got Hungarian soldiers to switch sides and join them. The protest was now a full-blown revolution. And for this one brief, shining moment, it looked like they had actually won. The revolution hit this peak of incredible optimism where it felt like a new nation was being born right before their eyes. The pressure from the streets was just too much to ignore. The old hardline government completely fell apart. And who did they call to try and calm things down? The very man they had kicked out, Imre Nagy. He was swept back into power, not by politicians, but by the raw will of the people. And Nagy did not waste a single second. His new government moved at lightning speed. I mean, just look at this list. They brought back other political parties, they got rid of the hated secret police, they freed political prisoners, but then they made their biggest move of all, announcing that Hungary was leaving the Warsaw Pact, the Soviet military alliance, and was going to be a neutral country. That was drawing a line in the sand with Moscow. And for the Kremlin, that was a line they were not going to let anyone cross. They simply could not allow a hole to be punched in their Iron Curtain. That brief, beautiful dream of freedom was about to become an absolute nightmare. On the morning of November 4th, the Soviet response came, and it was just overwhelming. They launched Operation Whirlwind and sent a staggering 2,500 tanks into Budapest. That number alone tells you everything you need to know about the impossible odds the freedom fighters were facing. As the invasion started, Imre Nagy got on a free radio station and made one last, desperate broadcast to the world. You can just feel the agony in those words. It's this haunting plea for help from a nation that knows it's been left all alone. The West was listening, but help wasn't coming. The Hungarians fought back with unbelievable courage, using things like Molotov cocktails and hunting rifles against Soviet tanks. But bravery, unfortunately, is no match for that kind of military power. The street fighting was horrific, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The revolution was crushed. So the fighting stops, but the story is far from over. The legacy of those 13 days would echo for decades, defined by the terrible price that was paid and the inspiration it gave to so many. The human cost? It's just staggering when you see the numbers. About 2,500 Hungarians were killed in the fighting, but then look at the aftermath. 200,000 people fled the country, became refugees. Tens of thousands were thrown in prison, and hundreds were executed, including the leader of the revolution himself, Imre Nagy. He became a martyr for the cause. So even though the uprising was defeated on the streets, it was a massive moral defeat for the Soviet Union. It just blew up the whole lie that communism was this happy, voluntary family of nations. The whole world saw that the Soviets had to use tanks to keep one of their so-called allies in line. And that sent shockwaves through communist parties everywhere, making a lot of true believers question everything. The story of 1956 is such a key chapter in the bigger story of the Cold War. The lessons learned in Budapest had a direct impact on later events, like the fight for socialism with the human face during the Prague Spring in 1968. If you want to see how that story played out, check out our explainer on it right here in this playlist. And hey, if you're enjoying this deep dive into Cold War history, make sure you're subscribed. And that leaves us with the big question, right? Was this whole thing a tragic failure, a noble effort crushed by force with a terrible human cost? Or was it the first major crack in the Iron Curtain, an act of defiance that showed the world the Soviet Empire wasn't invincible after all? Let me know what you think down in the comments. Thanks for watching.